Hey folks, Dad here with Elevation Diecast Racing. Welcome to the Scale Mile High Valley Tournament. This will be racing off the mods that folks sent in for this three-leg event. Like in the first half of this tournament, I randomly selected for the mods to be put in place. We only had 26 entries for the mod portion, so you'll notice anytime you see a Batmobile, well, he's just a filler. So we can make up a 32 car bracket. So, be that as it may, this is the mod portion of this race. Should be a good one. And without any further ado, in lane number one of two entries by DXP Racing. It is the Jaguar I-Pace E-Trophy taking on the Batman. These runs will be solo runs. There will be no need to run them again. So, let's see who takes it. Wow. 2062 moves DXP to the next round. Okay, up next, in the number 9 car from Captain K Racing, it's Kirk Parker driving the DeLorean Time Machine. And in lane number 2, driving the number 4, it's DRT3K Racing. Driver is Sam Hall in the Unobtainium. Wow, good race. 2054 to 59. Really good times. Let's swap them up. 2054, the time to beat. Woo, good race. 2052. Moves him into the next round. Okay, next up in the blocks, from Northern Roads Racing, it's the Starsky and Hutch in lane number 1. And from Variant Skunt Works, all the way from Canada, we have the 2009 F-150. Let's see who takes it. Good race. 2059 to 64, we'll switch them. 2059, the time to beat. Good race. 2055 sends Variant Skunt Works to the next round. Next up in lane number 1, it's another Batmobile taking on one of two from Hot Rods Customs Racing. Let's see who takes it. Chrysler 300 rolling. Woo, 2081 moves him to the next round. All right, next up in lane number 1, it is the Pontiac from the Ultra Hot series, driven by Fat Dad at Fat Dad Racing, taking on the Lamborghini Estoque, driven by Numbskull from Numbskull Racing. Let's see who takes it. Good race. 2059 to 70. We'll switch them up. 2059, the time to beat. Wow, 2074 and Numbskull moving on to the next round. Okay, next up in lane number 2, driving the number 7, the other entry from Dale over at DXP Racing in his F-150 Lightning, taking on the Nitro Door Slammer in the number 20 car, driven by Victor Fastlane of Knobby Ridge Dragway. Let's see who takes it down in lane first. Good race. 2061 to 71. We'll switch them up. 2061, the time to beat. Good race. 2061. Pretty consistent. Dale moves on to round number 2. Okay, next up, staged and ready in the number 10 car from Milestone Diecast Racing. It is the Aristorat. In lane number 2, in the number 1 car, the other entry from Variant Skunk Works, it's the Koenigsegg Chimera. Let's see who takes it. Wow, Koenigsegg, 2054 to 58. Good race. Let's switch lanes. 2054, the time to beat. Good race. Pretty consistent. Good race here. Variant Skunk Works going to the next round. Okay, next up on this side of the bracket, needing no introduction, Blue Line Racing in his Evo, taking on the Batman. Let's see who gets down the lane first. 2048 sends Blue Line to the next round. Okay, next up, staged and ready from Knobby Ridge Dragway, it's Victor Fastlane with his other entry in the Governor, taking on from Blue Line Racing, the Jaguar I-Pace in lane number 2. Let's see who gets down the lane first. Woo! 2038 will be the time to beat. I ain't gonna lie, fellas. I love seeing those fast times. I don't care who puts them down. 2042, moving Blue Line with his second entry into the next round. Okay, staged and ready. One of a couple entries from the Chase Family Racing. You know it, you love it. The AMG SEC 500 taking on the Batman. Woo! 2048. I'm loving it. He'll be moving on to the next round. And that was the Chase Family Racing solo entry. So I wanted to correct that. Okay, next up from Numbskull Racing, it's his Bubble Gunner taking on Isaiah's race team from Elevation Diecast Racing in his Country Club Muscle. Woo! 2047 laid bound by the muscle. Let's switch lanes. 2047 is the time to beat. 2050 moves Isaiah on to the next round. All right, next up from Fat Dad's Racing, it's Fat Dad driving in his Dodge Demon. He's got to take on the Batman. 2072 moves Fat Dad on to the next round. Okay, next up in the blocks in lane 1 from Elevation Diecast Racing, it is Dad's race team driving, taking on Hot Rod Customs Mattel stock car. Let's see, it takes it down the lane first. Good race. 2051. We'll switch lanes. 2051 is the time to beat. Closer to that time. 2049 put down the Country Club Muscle, and Dad's race team is moving on. All right, staged and ready. In the number 6 car is the Demon Preacher taking on Northern Roads Racing in the Flash. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Woo! 2059 put down by the Flash. Switching lanes, a 2059 is the time to beat. Wow. And the Flash took off like a flash. He'll be moving on to the next round. Okay, next up, staged and ready, we have Arlo Racing in his Country Club Muscle, taking on the Gold Batman. Woo! 2056 moves that Country Club Muscle to the next round for Arlo Racing. Okay, last race of the first round in lane number 1 in the Ford GT, driven by Scale Racing Channel, taking on the Lancer Evo color changer, driven by Marcus Reichel of Bavarian Diecast Racing. Let's see who gets down the lane first. Ooh, 2052. Let's switch them. 2052 is the time to beat. 2053. Pretty consistent, moving Scale Racing to the next round. What an excellent round of racing after round number 1. Here is the left side of the bracket. And over to the right side. Should make for some interesting racing. All right, in lane number 1 from Captain K Racing in the DeLorean, taking on DXP Racing in the Jaguar I-Pace. Good race. Woo, that sounded good. 2056. Let's switch those lanes. Let's see if we can hear that sound one more time. Woo! 2060. And that will move Captain K to round number 3. All right, next up, staged and ready in lane number 1 from Hot Rods Racing Customs in that Chrysler 300, taking on the number 2 car from Variant Skunk Works in the F-150. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Good race. 2057 to 64. 2057 put down by Variant is the time to beat. Excellent race. 2057 consistency moving into round number 3. All right, staged and ready in lane number 1 is DXP Racing in that Ford Lightning, taking on in lane number 2 from Numbskull Racing in the Lamborghini Estoque. Wow, what a race! DXP almost catching him on the back end, but a 10,000th beat by Numbskull. Let's get him back to the top. Numbskull Racing with a 10,000th advantage. 2059, the time to beat. 2063 to 73, and a 2059 and a 10,000th beat will be enough to move Numbskull to round number 3. What a race. Next up in the blocks, staged and ready, the Koenigsegg Chimera, driven by Variant Skunk Works, and in lane number 2, in the Lancer Evo, driven by Blue Line Racing. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Woo! 2050 to 57. Let's switch those lanes. 2050 is the time to beat. Good race. 2051. Moving Blue Line to round number 3. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, staged and ready. In lane number 1 is the AMG SEC 500, driven by the Chase Family Racing, taking on Blue Line's other entry with his Jaguar I-Pace. See who takes it down the lane first. What a race. 2040 to 52. Wow, let's switch them up. 2040, the time to beat. Good race. 2048. Woo! And a 10,000s beat. 2040 and a 48 moves Blue Line to the next round. Next up, staged and ready from Fat Dad Racing. It's Fat Dad in the Dodge Demon, taking on the Country Club Muscle from Isaiah's race team of Elevation Diecast Racing. Let's see who gets down the lane first. Good race. 2051 to 69. We'll switch them. 2051 is the time to beat. 2050 moves Isaiah to round number 3. Next up in the blocks, we have Northern Roads Racing driving the Flash in lane number 1, taking on the Country Club Muscle from Elevation Diecast Racing, driven by Dad's race team. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Good race. 2051. Let's switch them up. 2051 is the time to beat. Good race. 2048 put down by Dad's race team, moving him into the next round. And for the last race in round number 2, we have another Country Club Muscle driven by Arlo Racing, taking on the Ford GT from the Scale Racing Channel. Let's see who gets down the lane first. Good race. 2049 to 58. Let's switch them up. 2049 is the time to beat. Good race. 2049 consistently moving Scale Racing to round number 3. Taking a look at the left side of the bracket for round number 3. And down the right side of the bracket. Oh yeah. This is going to be good. All right, staged and ready in lane number 1 from Variant Skunk Works. It is the Ford F-150 taking on the number 9 Time Machine, driven by Captain K Racing. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Whoo, man. 2057 and a 10,000th beat. Captain K needs to best a 257. Let's see who gets down there. What a race. 2057 moves Variant Skunk Works into the semis. Next up, staged and ready, Blue Line Racing in his Lancer Evo, taking on Numbskull in his Lamborghini Estoque. Good race. Blue Line got him on the bottom end, and it's 2:04.9. 2:04.9, the time to beat. What a race. 2:05.0 gets Blue Line into the semis. Moving over to the other side of the bracket, in lane number 1 is Elevation Diecast Racing's Country Club Muscle, driven by Isaiah's race team, taking on the I-Pace Jaguar, driven by Blue Line Racing. Let's see who gets down the lane first. Wow, good race. 3.8, 2:03.8 to 5:1. Wow. 2:03.8, the time to beat. Good race. Much closer race that time, but 2:04.2. Blue Line moving to the final race. Semifinals, that is. Last race of the quarterfinals. It is Scale Racing Channel and his Ford GT taking on Dad's race team's Country Club Muscle from Elevation Diecast. Good race. 4.9 to 5:1. Let's switch them up. 2:04.9 is the time to beat. Good race. 2:04.5 sends Dad to the semis. All right, here is a look at the semis. Variant Skunk Works takes on Blue Line Racing, and Blue Line Racing takes on Elevation Diecast Racing. Before we line them up, we're going to take a brief pause and clean the track. There's a lot of dust and debris. So, enjoy a couple of Johnny Lightning laps while our crew gets to cleaning this track. And we'll see how the White Lightning Speedway rolls. I don't know, help me out. White Lightning Raceway or White Lightning Speedway? Let's go for a round of lightning. Cut rate movers taking on the Coca-Cola Studebaker. Coca-Cola Studebaker ate his lunch. 2:07.6 to 9.5. 2:07.6, the time to beat. Good race. 2:08.1. Studebaker still number 1. All right, we're back. The cleaning crew has done their job. Debris is clean. In lane number 1, in that Lancer Evo, is Blue Line Racing taking on the black F-150 from Variant Skunk Works. This will be to go to the final race. Let's see who takes it down the lane first. Good race. Blue Line with a 2:04.9 and a 10,000 speed. 2:04.9 is the time to beat. 2:04.7 moves Blue Line Racing to the first half of the final race. All right, next up in the blocks, it's Blue Line's other entry in his Jaguar I-Pace in lane number 1, taking on Elevation Diecast Racing's Country Club Muscle, driven by Dad's race team. Who gets down there first? Wow. 3.8 to 4.8 and a 10,000 speed. 2:03.8 is the time to beat. Woo, a little closer that time, but Blue Line going to the final race. All right, this is the race for third. Let's see who's going to take it. Variant Skunk Works in lane number 1, and Dad's race team from Elevation Diecast in lane number 2. Who gets there first? Good race. 2:04.8 in a 5.5. Let's switch them. 2:04.8 is the time to beat. Good race. 2:04.5. Wow. And that puts Dad's race team third on the podium. All right, here's your race final. We're just seeing to see 2 passes. Blue Line's going to take this one first and second. Which one's it going to be? I'm going to go with the I-Pace. What do you think? Let's see who gets down the lane first. Blue Line Racing. High pace, 2:04.1 to 4:7. 2:04.1 the time to beat. Nice, 2:04.3 to 4:7. And there it is, folks, your winner for the evening in this mod portion of the race in leg one. Blue Line Racing and his Jaguar I-Pace. Outstanding, outstanding win. Coming in second, also Blue Line with his Lancer Evo. And coming in third, Dad's race team from Elevation Diecast Racing. Great race. Congratulations, Blue Line, for taking the overall victory. Which takes us over to the modified numbers for tonight. Blue Line Racing with a clean sweep. 35 points added, or 25 points added to his 10 points already, which will take us up to the standings after leg number one. Blue Line Racing with 35, Northern Roads Racing 17, Scale Racing Channel 15, Elevation Diecast 15, Variant Skunkworks 7, Arlo Racing 5, DXP Racing 5, Numbskull Racing 5, Captain Kirk Racing, Captain K Racing 3, Fat Dad Racing 3, Chase Family Racing 1, and Knobby Ridge Dragway 1. All right, that is going to do it from Mile High Raceway, the first leg of the Scale Mile High Valley Tournament. Here is an overview. The mod points are on top. Stock race points are on the bottom with the addition of the mod race. I certainly hope you enjoyed this broadcast from Mile High Raceway over here at Elevation Diecast Racing. Folks, remember, if your car isn't fast, at least it'll look good on the shelf. Have a good night.